There's a lot of incredible magic systems that pervade the works of fantasy. There's elemental bending in Avatar, inspired by Asian martial arts fighting forms, where the human bounds of physicality and deep inner spirituality meet. There's allomancy in Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn series, channeling otherworldly power through the burning of metals, their various properties imbuing the human form with supernatural enhancements and abilities. Many systems have their own stylistic visual flares or are governed by complex rules, but I think none have been as transformative to me as the magic system of Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea novels, one that's connected with the innate power found in language itself. Throughout her series, the language of the making exposes how command over words gives one access to power that allows us to become better in tune with the interconnected systems of the world and ourselves, or power that can ultimately lead to our own undoing, power that radically begins with a name. The wizard Guin explains, "It is no secret, all power is one in source and end, I think. Years and distances, stars and candles, water and wind and wizardry, the craft in a man's hand and the wisdom in a tree's root, they all arise together. My name and yours, and the true name of the sun, or spring of water, or an unborn child, all are syllables of the great word that is very slowly spoken by the shining of the stars. There is no other power, no other name." This is how magic works in Earthsea. Every single living and non-living thing that resides in the archipelago has at least two names, a use name and a true name. The use name is the name on the surface, the word for an object or person derived from the modern common speech. The true name stems from the old tongue, the ancient language of the making. It's the embodiment of a thing's true nature, its essence. To know a thing's true name is to hold power over it. We see Jed use this throughout the first novel. Transfixed by the power of his aunt, a comely witch of the Isles demonstrates, he learns the names of various birds, having them at his beck and call in an instant. This earns him the use name Sparrowhawk. In later chapters, Jed uses the name of a dragon, ancient practitioners of the old speech, in order to outwit it and save his own life. And during his time at Roke Isle, a major wizarding school in Earthsea, he spends hours poring over texts containing exhaustive lists of names upon names upon names. In order to better serve the inhabitants of the archipelago as wizards, naming and command over language is central to their role as stewards over both history and maintainers of the balance of good and evil in the world. This is the basis of equilibrium, a concept that governs all beings of Earthsea. It refers to the natural order and balance of living and non-living things in the world, and throughout the Earthsea novels, wizards hold it in high regard, understanding that unruly magic is capable of upsetting the balance of this world. The wizard's role revolves around maintaining this balance in both the natural world and themselves. Inspired by Le Guin's lifelong interest in Taoism and East Asian philosophies, equilibrium emphasizes the human relationship to nature, and it's one in Earthsea that is nurtured through language, through the process of naming. Names as power come from our earliest mythologies and religions, from Egyptian mythology where the goddess of magic Iset tricked Ra into revealing his true name in a plot to usurp the throne for her son Horus, to Judaism, where practitioners avoid speaking the true name of God. Language as a tool of power has been central to the relationship religious and mythological doctrine and stories have had over the people governed by it. Earthsea's mythos is something just as ingrained into the fabric of their world, in an even more literal and physical way. The humans of the archipelago maintain a kind of frustrating relationship and connection to the world. They can't as easily impose their will on the greater world. The mage or wizard, through years of studying and training and discipline, maintains this balance through language, a power that can encode entire histories, one we're all imbued with. Here, Ursula showcases the process of gaining power in Earthsea as inseparably tied to the act of seeking and gaining knowledge. The wizard serves as a kind of historian, a keeper of history of the ancient ways, a vessel who uses knowledge as a source of power, a power that, if untamed, will just as easily lead to our own destruction. To change this rock into a jewel, you must change its true name. And to do that, my son, even to so small a scrap of the world, is to change the world. It can be done. Indeed, it can be done. It is the art of the master changer, and you will learn it when you are ready to learn it. But you must not change one thing, one pebble, one grain of sand, until you know what good and evil will follow on that act. This is the greatest contribution to fantasy that Ursula's language of the making reveals. She ties language and speaking and thought, integral aspects of human discourse, to action, to acting upon the living and non-living things of the world. To cast even a single breath into this world is to radically change it. The things we think become the things we say, become the things we do. They're inseparable, not only in understanding our impact on the greater world, but in conceptualization of the self. This is critical to understanding Jed's journey on a psychological level. His overzealous ambition and foolhardiness clouded this responsibility innate in the role of the wizard, and it's what leads him to a bout with another rival student, Jasper, that ends with Jed unleashing a terrible demon on himself, a shadow manifestation of his darkest desires and impulses, a thing without a name that somehow knows Jed's, a thing that he's powerless to stop, that has power over him. Jed's ensuing journey is the story of equilibrium disrupted, more than just in the greater world, but within himself. His actions taken in haste, hatred, and anger, without heed for the very balance or equilibrium they would disrupt, lead to an unraveling of the self. It's in this way the language of the making becomes his unmaking. This sorcery is not a game we play for pleasure or for praise. Think of this, that every word, every act of our art is said and is done either for good or for evil. Before you speak or do, you must know the price that is to pay. In a world where language and its effects are real and tangible, power's ability to easily corrupt the self is made clear by Guin. In seeking to uncover the vulnerabilities in the many creatures and things of this world in order to command them, we expose the vulnerability within ourselves. Our fragile nature is overwhelmed by the immensity of a world we wish to conquer rather than to understand. This is the tragedy of man personified. But as much as this haunts Jed throughout his many lessons, Ursula also uses it to reveal how language can serve not only as a bridge to power, but the very lifeblood of intimacy. This is explored in Jed's friendship with Vetch, a young wizard he meets at Roke Isle, who takes an affinity for him early on. When Jed is nearly consumed by the shadow he unleashed, Vetch is the only onlooker who reaches out, trying to help him. When Jed is incapacitated, Vetch takes care of his pet Otak bird companion. Vetch's friendship with Jed is a powerful force and the beating undercurrent of the story. Just as names govern relationships of power in Earthsea, names govern relationships of vulnerability and friendship as well. I will go home to see my brothers and the sister you have heard me speak of. I left her a little child, and soon she'll be having her naming. It's strange to think of, and so I'll find me a job of wizardry, somewhere among the little isles. Oh, I would stay and talk with you, but I can't. My ship goes out tonight and the tide is turned already. Sparrowhawk, if ever your way lies east, come to me. And if you ever need me, send for me, call on me, by my name, Estariel. At that, Jed lifted his scarred face, meeting his friend's eyes. Estariel, he said, my name is Jed. There's so much emotionally resonant here. Names which give people power over living and non-living things factor not only in the discourse of wizards, but in true relationships. Ursula exposes a different kind of vulnerability here. As we know from our own world, names serve as a shorthand or summation of a person. The single utterance of a name, especially a friend or loved one's, immediately conjures up their memory, the internal workings of your relationship. If knowing a name is to have power over that thing, and in Earthsea friends may at length share with one another their names, then what does this say about how Ursula conceptualizes relationships? Well, what becomes clear is that to be in a relationship requires a kind of relinquishing of power, its inherent vulnerability. Rather than exposing the vulnerabilities of an enemy in order to defeat it, relationships revolve around bearing your own vulnerabilities, the most naked version of yourself, to another person. It is the very basis of friendship. And deeper than that, it's the meeting point where your personhood and their personhood become intertwined, a kind of external equilibrium. Language allows us to access that vulnerability. Conversations which begin as words in the air mix and congregate with the words of others. My thoughts and words mingle with your thoughts and words as we grow closer through bonds of friendship. This is the beginning of oneness, of shared thought. For the friendship found through vulnerability, language serves as an essential tool for better understanding not only the other person, but the self. And when we falter, lose aspects of our own identity, it's friends that aid in reestablishing that sense of self. Vetch's friendship is instrumental in this, accompanying Jed to the darkest realm, at his side as he confronts the shadow, a symbol of all the hatred and misplaced ambition locked within Jed. It's his friendship and care that ultimately protects Jed when he names the shadow as his own. Jed had neither lost nor won, but naming the shadow of his death with his own name had made himself whole, a man who, knowing his whole true self, cannot be used or possessed by any power other than himself, and whose life, therefore, is lived for life's sake, and never in service of ruin or pain or hatred or the dark. Language is power. The greatest writers and orators of our time continue to reveal this basic fact to us. Through their words, we are given access to entire histories and mythologies, to greater knowledge of the spirituality in both the world and ourselves, and to better understanding of our own internal psychologies. Le Guin's language of the making shows us the dual-sided responsibility that comes with having mastery and command over this power, the ability to destroy or create through our words. Words which, when delivered from a uniquely skilled vessel, have the power to echo across generations and radically transform our worldview, a power that in turn is imbued in all of us. To breathe life into this world is to change it in an instant, and so a lifetime of speaking contains a radical impact that is immeasurable. At our most powerful but also our most vulnerable, it's through language we reaffirm our empathic relationship to the living and non-living things of this world, things whose eternal essence begins and ends with a name. Mind Theater is a solo effort produced and written by me, Aoaking Bada. For only $3 a month, you could support the show on Patreon. It really helps a lot. The link is in the description box below. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.